morning, humans. It has been a heck of a week, and let me make sure actually that I have got my audio correct because I am very sleepy from a long weekend of Maker Faire and then awesome time hanging out with a friend yesterday. So it's been a lot. But I'm following through on a promise that I made last week, which was to begin making it a lot easier to follow stuff that I'm doing. For one thing, I want to remove a consistent bottleneck with me announcing stuff. I love doing hardware. I don't love doing social media. It's sort of like a means to an end for me. And so I am working on a page that will always show my next schedule videos, and you will be able to find that here. So if you go to alexglow.notion.site, you will find my website and all of the various things that I do, which is a work in progress. I started this new page in around March this year, and I'm trying to soup it up constantly. So at the top here, you will see a new live shows and events page. If you're confused about all the stuff that I'm doing, me too. No, actually, I got a pretty good handle on it, but you can find out about every Tuesday at 10:30 a.m. From now on, I'm going to be doing something. The second part of this little stream of consciousness here was that I have Hackster Cafe episodes every couple of weeks, but not always. And just to keep some sort of sense of consistency and also let people know, like, a scheduled time that I will be on, I'm going to start doing something like this around 10:30 a.m. every week. So, this is the first iteration of that. I feel like I did pretty okay. I got started about 35 minutes later than I wanted, but also it's been a gigantic week, and this is my first go-round, so there was a little bit of stuff to set up. But yeah, so Hackster Cafe, interviews with really cool hardware people doing cool stuff with electronics. Dayglow is my collaboration with David Groom, where we dig into hardware that we've only gotten to sort of surface level touch in the past. Lots of stuff that through our jobs we've ended up having like pieces of hardware to introduce or unbox or whatever, but never actually gotten to dig into. And some of this stuff is really, really cool. So this is our chance to do that. And besides that, Hack O'Clock is my sort of spontaneous hack sessions, often late at night, although I did one before Maker Faire updating Archimedes, which you can find on my YouTube. And then Space Song Sunday, I occasionally go live on Instagram Live on a Sunday, not every Sunday. It's aggressively casual and low-key because that's the only way that it managed to be pretty much the one long-running project. I've been doing this for like at least 6 years now, I think. But it's a long-running project that I've kept going, over the last few years with, the pandemic and burnout and all this other good stuff. Like, that's the low pressure is part of the point of it, but it's a cozy time and I dropped some space facts. So I'm going to be adding little intros and updates about upcoming events at the top of this page. Let's see, so going down the list here, live streams every Tuesday, live shows and events page, okay, Raspberry Pi 500 Plus. This is a really cool device that I've got here in the studio with me right now, actually, so let's have a look at that. But I did a video about it last week for the release, and I'm not logged into Instagram here, so it won't play it for you, but I'm just going to show you some stuff live. Let's do this. Here we go. So, gotta switch over. We got Pi. So you may be familiar with the Raspberry Pi 400 and 500, which are previous versions of this concept. Basically, Eben Upton and co. wanted to make sort of an homage to the tradition of low-cost, sort of very approachable computers for people to learn on, sort of all-in-one kinds of things. So while this looks like a keyboard, it is in fact an entire Raspberry Pi. You can see the micro HDMI outs, you can see the power in, the 40-pin connector here, your Ethernet, then you've got 3 USB ports, and of course the micro SD with the OS on it. And this guy has a few like sort of really earth-shaking updates in my opinion. One of them is these super clicky keys. One of them is a removable memory system. So you've got these M.2 slots where you can swap out your memory. Right now it comes with a 256 gigabyte SSD inside of it. And then I am going to actually open it up and show you that real quick. But the other thing is, let me plug this in. There we go. It's fully backlit, and these are programmable animations controlled by an onboard RP2040 that's built into the computer itself. So whether you swap out the micro SD card for a different, OS setup or whatever, no matter what you do with that, you can keep the same animations, as far as I understand. Because it was, even if you take the micro SD card out, it still does the animations and stuff. Let me just do that real quick. I'll show you. So, Raspberry Pi brand micro SD card coming out. Plug it in. Et voila! Still does the thing, even without the OS in there, so it's super cool. I've actually left the screws uninstalled on this because I wanted to open it up again. This thing comes with a spudger and a key puller so that you can replace the keys if you want, swap them out for other ones. I haven't actually tested that yet, but okay, I was going to I was going to keep this video short, but now that I've gotten into it, I've got so much to do today. It's the last day of the month, and there's all this clerical stuff to catch up on, but who cares? It makes a lot of really satisfying sounds when you're opening it up here. Let's get this side open. Whoop! You can see this side is cracked already. So it holds together pretty well without the screws in there. There we go. I don't know if you can hear those clicks, but it's very satisfying in person. I'm also getting a few little clicks from the keys as we go. There we go. Woohoo! So there's our keyboard on the top here. And then, oh, I should probably do this the other way around. Oh no! That's fine. And then here is our M.2 replaceable 256 gigabyte SSD. And it's got a little beautiful knurled knob on here that has a notch so that it sits in that notch on the side there. And it's just a gorgeous little machined piece, and it's hand adjustable, as well as having a slot on there if you want to get a little more hardcore with it. And then you can just swap this out. Yoink! So again, I did a little video on Instagram and stuff about this. I'm going to put it on YouTube as well soon. I'm going to just put this aside for now because we got things to talk about. Let me just put these in a safe place because otherwise I'm going to lose all of it. Okay. Where's I going with this? So we have a oh yeah, this was also my first attempt at a binaural stereo audio, immersive audio, whatever you want to call it, video. And unfortunately, the system I was using was very, very quiet. So the video is very quiet. I didn't want to like mess up the audio quality or whatever. You just got to turn your volume way up. And I'm going to be doing more of these, and hopefully we'll get a better handle on the whole system. And I'll show you what that system looks like as well later on. I also was tagged in this, which is someone else's little overview of soldering my Avnet guitar pick PCB, which, do I have that in my history here? Let's see. Guitar pick. Nope. I'll pull that up in a second. Huh. That's odd. Okay, bit.ly/avnet pick, as it says on the PCB. This is my a PCB I designed for Avnet's Centennial, as the name implies. Avnet 100 years. And it works as an earring. You can use it as a functional guitar pick. I think I have a video at the end of this that actually shows me using it for... There we go. I did use it on my mandolin as well. A half-height PCB, it turns out, works better for actually playing an instrument because it's got a little bit of flex and it's not quite so thick. But yeah, a really fun one that I ran as a workshop a few years ago. And also there's notes on the design and stuff. Let's see. So, besides that, other new things. Oh yes, my Maker Faire talk on Sunday. You can find that at the link in the description. If you look at timestamp around 4:38:28, Then you'll see David Groom introducing me, and then me like rambling on about these mind-altering gadgets that I make, which are basically devices that I use to make my brain work better. And you can see at some points during the talk, I like brought these up on screen. Uh, but I also have them here in the studio, so I'm going to show you a few of those real quick. Once again, I'm trying to make this fast, and I'll do a full video on it later on, but this is just my little update, which is rapidly getting out of hand. But here is, for example, one that this is a board called the Cardio, which is the badge from Chaos Communication Camp 2019, and I made a little Pomodoro timer for it. And then here's a little test application version where it just goes really fast. You can see it counting up through the phases. We got start with blue LEDs up top, and the blue rocket ship illuminated on here. Next we'll do, I think, oh, yellow phase, my bad. So we keep the blue LED lit and we go through counting up to 20 minutes. And then the green phase, final 5 minutes, you're counting up 25 minutes of productivity basically. And then 5 minutes of rest. Then a few other gadgets. Here is my first ever prototype of the Kua timer, which is a little mindfulness device that vibrates every hundredth of a day, which is about 14.4 minutes. And I would put this in various different little enclosures. This is a tiny Lily board from Tiny Circuits. It's a programmable Arduino board. It's sitting here underneath that haptic vibration motor. So this would vibrate every 14.4 minutes, and I used it to basically remind myself to check in with myself and be mindful and see if I'm like doing what I want to be doing with my life at that time. And it worked pretty well. It also just gave me a general sense of the passage of time, and sort of, when you're in a sort of floaty state, it can help with that. I'm gonna drink some water. So this little board is just incredible. And I've got a few different projects that use this. You can find more about all of these projects linked from my Mind Altering Gadgets page, which is up on Notion, and in more detail on the Mutagen Wiki, which is on GitHub. So I've got links to all these different tutorials I've got on Hackster.io, where I am a pro partner, which means that basically I create content like videos and such like, tutorials and interviews and things. But especially tutorials, including lots of these different ones. So if you're interested in EEG hacking, you can see some of those projects, some fashion devices I made that respond to brainwaves, lucid dreaming masks, different types of stuff. I'll show you the glow up really quick. This is multiple prototyping stages. I've never really shown these all in one place before until this talk. Where, ooh, I'm not even sure where the original one is, which was in 2 pieces that I mounted underneath my eyes, but basically it's a little PCB that has very specific wavelengths of blue light that shine in a very specific way across your eyeballs, not into them. And so you know how people tell you not to look at blue light at night, like from your phone or whatever, because it'll keep you awake? This is basically that on purpose. It can be used in theory as a sort of replacement for caffeine, just to sort of like help you wake up and stuff. It's sort of like taking a SAD lamp, like a seasonal affective disorder full spectrum lamp, and instead of having like a full spectrum of lights a few feet away from your face, taking up a lot of power, you have a low power version with just a small frequency band that's just ones that sort of fool your brain into thinking it's daylight, mounted right up on your face. And so it's sort of a more efficient way of doing it. Yeah, it looks hella dorky. I made one of my favorite PCBs, even though it's very simple, uh, based on this. So these are the sort of iterations. There was the first one. The first few were all milled on a Bantam PCB mill. I think this one came first, and then a smaller one on the Bantam, and then this one where it was sort of a different shape. This might have been before, actually. And then eventually I finally made one using Osh Park's After Dark colorway. And this is just a decorative part. There we go, brain. With a little bit of an Art Deco flair. drawn by hand in KiCad actually, and then some lightning bolts and stuff. And this is not a medical device. Please do not take my medical advice on any of this. Don't sue me if you wreck your eyeballs or it doesn't work for you. But yeah, various different versions of that. And then also there's this Adafruit Blue Fruit hooked up to a Neosensory Buzz. This is another one of those mindfulness timers where basically you can program the Adafruit Blue Fruit Bluetooth device in Arduino code, and then it will send pulses to this wearable wrist bracelet, which has 4 little haptic motors inside of it, and it will vibrate in a certain pattern every 14.4 minutes. I'd love to make this one a little bit more complex because since it's got 4 separate motors, you can do not only PWM patterns and little like sequential vibrations, but you can also, I could do, for example, every 4th one, or then it'll be a 25th of the day, and roughly an hour later. So you could have, different types of vibrations and stuff. This bracelet was originally designed for helping people with hearing difficulties experience music through vibration. So kind of a common trope actually with assistive devices. There's like vests and different types of wearables that people have made to sort of translate music into vibrations. This is the older binaural stereo headset that I was using to record years and years ago. As I mentioned in my talk, I created some ASMR recordings, basically, including, for example, raindrops on an umbrella. For me, I don't really enjoy. I actually hate the sounds of people eating and whispering and stuff. I don't enjoy those. I don't really enjoy the like getting your hair cut novelty recordings, but I do really love raindrops on a car roof or on an umbrella. And so I actually created some of these recordings for myself. And you can find those on my SoundCloud actually, which I rarely talk about because there's a bunch of embarrassing stuff on there. Let me pull it up. And I managed to sleep my screen real quick. There we go. But if you go to my main page, alexglow.notion.site, you will find my SoundCloud. Oh, no, you won't. Never mind. Let me go put that up there. SoundCloud, Alex Glow. Or is it the Merlin? I figure that out. There's like an older SoundCloud and a newer one. Let's see. This is my old site, which I love a lot more aesthetically, but it's a pain in the butt to update, so I never do. And you can find, the one in the thumbnail is an LCD display. The one in what thumbnail? The green one. Oh yeah, the cardio. Yeah, that thing is so cool. I wish I had designed that. I did not. Some of these other ones I did, like obviously these guys. There's also this Pomander, which is a device that I've been working on for a few years now. Or rather, I did work on a few years ago. Oh, 2023. There we go. To be a sort of platform for my own brain-enhancing wearables. But this one does not yet work. We'll get there, though. Anyway, so back to the website stuff. I got the SoundCloud. I really want to like archive this old version of my website because look, it's got like little fades in and out and stuff. It's got my hair FAQ, which I have like translated to my new site. But anyway, the whole point was it's kind of broken. It takes forever to update. See the brokenness? Yeah. But it does have a link to my SoundCloud. And that includes go away. And that includes this binaural ASMR recording that I made in Massachusetts a number of years ago. 7 years ago! Good lord. And you can listen to that if you want to be calmed. It's just a bunch of raindrops on an umbrella. I love it. How many pins are available at the bottom of the cardio? Let's find out. And just for the record, it's spelled C-A-R-D 10. So that will help you find it. Let's see, we got a bunch. This is not for Nazis, by the way. That's confusing because there's these metal bars that are designed to help read your heartbeat. and unfortunately they cover up part of the design. So there's a ton of what do we got? 12, 13 on each side, so 26 total maybe. I'm not sure. You can find the actual pinout at card10 cardio badge dot badge dot events dot ccc dot de. Just look up cardio badge and you'll be able to find it. There's actually two different ways that you can read your heartbeat based on this. There are those two little metal bars which are detachable and they kind of go underneath a wristband if you're using that. Or you can put your fingers on here. I think this is also meant to be a sort of maybe a pulse oximeter or maybe a heartbeat sensor with like an infrared or similar type of light sensor. All kinds of cool stuff built into this and I adore it, honestly. Thanks for asking about that. I love talking about it. It is very neat. Let's see. So I had a couple more updates real quick. Mind Altering Gadgets talk page. I put that up already. New Archimedes updates. Yeah, so I made updates to Archimedes, my owl companion bot, which I'm gonna make this page a lot more accessible in the future. Let me just drop the link into the chat right now. As I mentioned, I'm going to be updating my website to have a little bit more ease of discovery for each of these most important things. But you can see my first couple of Hackster write-ups. I'm working on a third write-up for Archimedes 3, Frankenmedes, who is a sort of amalgamation of the first two, plus a bunch of new stuff. I'm going to show you some of that really quick, because I love it. But not super in-depth because I'm trying to keep this update short and sweet. Here we go, and I need to put my face up here. If I look sleepy, I am. It's been a lot going on in the last week, but you can see a lot of that in just like the Raspberry Pi release. We had Maker Faire, we had stuff going on after Maker Faire. Anyway, this is Archimedes V3. As usual, he sits on my shoulder most of the time. I had an awesome time meeting a bunch of new friends, a bunch of older friends who haven't seen him working in a few years, and also children who have an awesome time interacting with him, and I love seeing children interact with him. There's a couple of aesthetic updates for one thing. We've got some more bike leather, which is my word for bicycle inner tubes. So Archimedes V1's harness was made of this stuff. Basically a long length of armature wire shoved through an old bicycle inner tube and wrapped around my torso, and it was not comfortable. It also ended at the top in a metal bracket that was a pan and tilt servo bracket. So later on I swapped that out for this, which I modified to sit on a GoPro mount that I had kludged together, which decided to fail this weekend, so that was fun. Hey, there we go. I also this weekend or this week I added this DF Robot audio module. Let me turn him on for a minute because I also added lights, which he hasn't really had before. He's got a couple of moonstones in his eyes, and those light up along with the rest of his umbilical cable here, which is two power cables, one for his controlling Arduino and one for his servo motors. And then also in the middle here, I stuck a whole bicycle inner tube with just a NeoPixel strip running through it, which all lights up, and I think it looks so cyberpunk. So let's plug these in. And I'll show you what he does. I also revamped the battery pack, so it's just this extra sort of like hip bag, belt bag, that is much easier to deal with than everything I've done before. So here we've got the colors just came on. It's got all these NeoPixels. The moonstones work really well as diffusers for LEDs, although they might be a little bit bright up there, but I don't know how well you can see, but there's this gorgeous texture that they have. And then underneath the wings, of course, this bandana just covers up all his electronic junk, but he's very intentionally sort of like low complexity, but also like very intentionally robot-esque. Like he looks like a robot. He's meant to look like a robot. This umbilical, which lights up, like wraps around my arm, and it looks super cyberpunk. I love it. I'm gonna see if I can do this without him like falling out of my hand. Gotta plug this in one-handed. The power hub connection was getting kind of loose. Okay, so here we go. You gonna move around? There we go. So he does his little random animation. I talked to the people at Botango at Maker Faire Bay Area, and I think we're gonna try and get him running on that for some more naturalistic motions. So he's always had this kind of like every second or so random movement program running. Um, Sometimes he would like actually respond to stuff. He used to have a camera in one of his eyes and a speaker in the other one. Now he's got a new voice, which is on this incredibly janky thing I rigged up, but I was like, just get it done and then you can make it good later on, as they say. Or perfect is the enemy of good. Ooh! Oh, you know what? I forgot to even say, I finished him up last Wednesday on a Hack O'Clock episode, which you can find on the same YouTube channel if you go to youtube.com/glowaski. And uh, helped him. So he helped me host Impact Spotlights for Hackster.io last Thursday. Again, I'm a pro partner there and love it. So I gave him this little voice box to help him say some things. He mainly just says mean stuff because I was in some kind of mood when I was programming this, and I was like, I'll make him like say these sassy little things, and it was actually quite hard to understand. And he's got 13 different sound bites, but he would only play like 4 of them for some reason.
Are you always this charming? What a pity. Ooh, what a beautiful day. Or it will be, once I'm alone again.
Anyway, this is a DF Robot audio module, and I noticed that it works really well. It's nice that it's an all-in-one module, pardon me. As usual, he likes to hit stuff on my face. I kind of gave him some mean comments because he's a huge diva and he's always malfunctioning in new and really unpleasant ways, and also like at the worst possible time. Like with this thing where his hinge, which has been working fine for multiple years, decided to give out on the first morning, and so I managed to find some really kind people with a hot glue gun at this R2D2 droid and Star Wars droid maker's table, and they helped me just like freeze that joint in place. Anyway, point being, he's kind of a jerk to me all the time, so I figured that other people could learn a little bit more about his true personality. So they're all like kind of mean little sassy comments about like, oh, what an excellent outfit for a circus juggler, kind of stuff. I don't know. I was in a mood. So this is this is a DF Robot audio module. It works really nicely, except for that. I think that actually it's a power issue where like. I think part of the reason that it was repeating is because it plays the clips in order unless you program it not to. And so it would play the same one over and over again because my power cable connection is wiggly. You can't really tell because he's moving at this sort of randomly spaced interval anyway, which is good because, yeah, anyway. So his lights are on one power source, his servos are on another, and then his brain and audio are on another one, which really helps me with like being able to choose how much he's doing at any given time. And at some point in the future, I'll like add power switches to that. But for example, if I'm just walking around and I'm in a talk, for example, and I don't want to like be making a lot of noise if I'm in the audience or if I'm giving a talk, I'll just turn his lights on so that all he's really doing is like lighting up and looking cool. And then it doesn't really matter if that battery goes out, but actually it lasts a really long time. I think it lasted for about 7 hours maybe. I've got a lot of NeoPixels on this too. It like goes all the way up my arm on this basically full length NeoPixel situation. It looks really cool when it's on, I promise. And then also to his wings and inside his head and stuff like that. And then, yeah, the servos are like if I want him to look cool. The brain is always on. So it's like lights are stage 1. So stage 2 is brain if I want him to be able to talk. And then stage 3, or if I like want to be able to edit stuff. And then stage 3 is like having the actual servos on and having him move around. I really like these bike inner tube details. I just love this material. I'm going to be publishing a lot more about how I work with that soon. Can I make a robot that speaks pure random noise? I'm really curious what that means. The Rava circuit looks promising. Huh. So, this thing about AI. Okay, so this guy does not have any AI on it, and that's sort of an intentional thing. That's actually a part of my new page about like my new overpage with Archimedes. In the past, I've only had like sort of an over or a link to each of the tutorials. But on this new overview page, I've gathered together not only like an overall description and like both of my write-ups so far and some like media mentions and stuff and my original intro video about him in 2018 plus like Hackaday articles and interviews and talks I've given with him, um, and also a sticker pack for Signal, which this is the older version. There's a better one now. But yeah, here we go. So I originally designed him to because Google gave us this at Hackster, this Google AIY vision kit that was designed, basically DIY AI that was designed to help people build stuff with AI. And this was 2018, remember? So at the time, this was like I basically set up one of the demos, which was an emotion detection thing, and he would respond to people smiling or looking sad with happy or sad noises. And then sometimes he would like take a photo if you pushed the button to explicitly choose to do that. I used him to start conversations about ethics in AI because even at the time there was plenty of scholarship already around how like AI often has biases embedded in it. So there's an amazing documentary called Coded Bias where Dr. Joy Bulawani talks about the biases that are encoded in, for example, facial recognition and emotion detection devices. They're really bad at differentiating and recognizing people of color because their databases are not well trained on it, and that has real world ramifications, such as people of color being more likely to be uh, mistakenly arrested based on false positives. And so, a person may not be the suspect, but they may be arrested based on very flimsy data from a poorly trained and immature system that is being deployed into society. So I spent a bunch of time giving talks about this issue and trying to use Archimedes to start and continue conversations about the issues with AI. Like, this is all, it's basically bias laundering, like it's built by people, but because it comes from a machine, people assume that it doesn't have any human biases when it's actually an encoding and reinforcement of those biases. So then like various, other points about it. But then I found that, even though I was using this to sort of bring the conversation to people who are interested in AI, I wasn't really getting the type of conversation that I really wanted to be having. And at this point, now 7 years later, in 2025, AI has become or really machine learning algorithms have become such an ingrained part of, like, sort of crammed into everything that we use in our lives, whether we want it to or not. Um, this has just become a standard thing. So now I think it's more interesting and more groundbreaking to show people everything you can do without using AI, without leaning on it as a crutch. So actually, I shouldn't use that phrase because crutches are actually useful and awesome. Like, crutches are cool. Using AI to like as a sort of go-to for everything, in my opinion, is not very creative, and also, no shade to people who do build with it as an explicit choice, but I think that, like, yeah, at this point, like in this case, I think people assume that he has AI, partly because he did it in the past, which is fair. But at this point, I think it's more interesting to, again, like I said, demonstrate everything you can do without AI. Like, for example, one thing I was trying to do with Archimedes and another robot was train them to respond to an ocarina. So I would play a certain note on an ocarina, it would detect that note, and then it would respond, right? And I was training an edge AI model to do this on a microcontroller using Edge Impulse, which was going to be really cool, honestly. And I spent a bunch of time training this, and it was kind of working okay. And then I realized we've been able to do this for years and years with a fast Fourier transform. Like, that exists. You can do it in Arduino, like, just as a library, you can just load it up and run it. And so you don't need AI for that. I was going to that because I was like trying to demonstrate this system, but there's so much that you can do with other techniques that often are like less memory intensive, less microcontroller intensive. They just take less power, stuff like that. You can run it on less sophisticated devices. It's more resilient in that way because often like uh you know, models, especially with this trend toward like generalized models, right? Uh it's you're putting so much power and dedicating so much storage space to a lot of stuff that you really don't need in order to do your application. And in lots of cases, it actually kind of like fogs up the parts that you do want to work. It's sort of like building a humanoid robot every time you want to have something that like pushes a button, right? It takes way more power, it has way more complexity, it's harder to debug, harder to fix. Like if you have an arm with like 15 joints, right? Suppose you're trying to push a button and you have an arm with 15 joints versus one joint. And then like you're like, well, any one of these could go out of whack if I like program it wrong or do something and it's trying to like intuit how to do something. There's just all these different ways that it takes more energy and like more complexity and it's harder to debug, harder for regular people if this is built into their house like we're doing with these tools and stuff. It just makes everything harder and sucks down more energy for basically no reason. So there are so many better ways, even if one's going to use like edge AI and stuff, then it's so much uh, more logical to use a tiny model that's very specific to your use case rather than like a large language model, which is one of the points that Dr. Timnit Gebru was making in her work at Google. So TRNG is my thing. True random number generators. Yeah. Why not? There's so much you can do with that. I should do some stuff with that. That'd be rad. I'd love to see things that you make with it. The cardio, I'd like to have one with a 16 key number pad. It's a good candidate for my quantum calculator concept. Oh, please do build that. These are a little bit they're kind of in short supply. They are, in my opinion, an incredible little device. They're one of those ones that are just like too beautiful to continue existing. Like the light blue bean is another one like that, where it's a little Bluetooth device that was programmable from your phone. By the way, this is not an official Hackster broadcast. This is just my Hackster microphones from back in the day. Microphones, headphones. Where's my little light blue bean that still has the prototyping board on it? Here we go. This is a tiny little microcontroller that runs off of a coin cell, and it's got my hair on it. And you could program it with an app onto your phone. Program Bluetooth code or Arduino code from your phone via Bluetooth, and it has a little built-in RGB LED and stuff. This was built as a demo unit to demonstrate the technology of punch-through designs who made this. And alas, they eventually stopped making it. And they did open source the files though before they did that, and there's a couple of apps that you can still maybe use to program it. So I'm actually working on resurrecting that because they're so cute. And then this is a similar one where like I think it was partly made possible because of some like donations from hardware companies and stuff like that. Are you gonna wake up? There we go. Oh, I was pushing the wrong button. And it's just such a perfect little self-contained piece of tech, and it's gorgeous. I made a whole like series of cute little brackets and stuff to wear it as a wrist cuff and whatnot. It's just an amazing little piece of tech, but it can be kind of hard to get hold of. Let me pull up. I think there's a swap board somewhere. Cardio. I think also that maybe I looked for this recently. They have a thing called the hatchery, or I think they've got other names for it. Oh no, this URL is still good. It looks like cardio.badge.events.ccc.de. I'll just drop this in the chat here so that you can easily find it. There we go. And on here, I think they have a swap page. Yeah, cardio exchange point. Yeah, it's not exactly hugely utilized, but they also have community pages where you can get in chat, in contact over IRC or to Matrix and stuff, to try and talk to people about where you might get hold of one. So That's what I would recommend. They can be hard to find. Again, it was a badge for a camp in 2019, so that may take some doing to find. I've been talking to randomness for many years. I always thought it was weird, but now so many are doing the exact same thing, but with ChatGPT. Yeah, and at least you recognize it as randomness. There's been so many articles about how people are, especially when ChatGPT was more sycophantic and would just sort of like, encourage and reinforce whatever you told it, which is not what therapy is for, especially when it like encourages you to continue really unexcellent behavior, which I've heard a couple of stories about, like just because it's like, yeah, you go girl or whatever. And like, so I'm glad that you recognize that you're talking to randomness. Unfortunately, like if more people, I think if we didn't use the term AI so much, which of course, it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. But anyway, recognizing that it is what it is so important when people are working with these like models and stuff, because it is not in fact intelligent. It is a fancy pattern matching machine. And there's all this interesting stuff around it, but uh, Dr. Gibru has done a ton of really cool stuff around it, and I want to check out more around that. So anyway, that this ended up being a whole like 40-minute thing so far. Again, this is my first round of doing a Tuesday update slash video. In future episodes, I'd like to actually get around to digging into some tech and stuff. We had a pretty fun little like view into some of these things. Again, watch the rest of the mind-altering gadgets talk from Maker Faire, which is linked in the description if you want to see more about these things. This is another one that I mentioned, which is from my friend Kitty Young, who makes this really cool beautiful brooch badge, which is another one that inspires me in terms of the pomander that I'm trying to build for mind-altering gadgets. And I programmed it to be a meditation timer. So anyway, so much cool stuff, so little time. It's the last day of the month and I got a ton of logistical stuff to wrap up, but I wanted to hold you, or hold to my promise to you, to start broadcasting every Tuesday morning so that you know that there's going to be something, even when I'm not doing a Hackster Cafe. So always tune in. On this page, I'll be showing what my upcoming live shows are going to be. And so every Tuesday morning, you can expect either a Hackster Cafe or one of these like updates and maybe some hardware hacking. This is an effort for me to decouple doing this stuff from telling people about this stuff, because there's always a bottleneck of me actually announcing videos and telling people that this stuff is going to happen. So if you can just know that it's going to happen, it's a lot easier. So I'm going to be doing these alternating with Hackster Cafe episodes, and also I'm going to be trying to keep this page updated with what my upcoming shows and events are, and then the past ones you'll be able to find as well. And then you can also find descriptions of each of the shows that I'm running and collaborating on with people, both independently and with Hackster.io. So, all that good stuff. Thanks for joining me. I got a couple more comments here. Let's see, we got. Ooh, the idea of the lily wave. I gotta check this out. Lily. Open up. Lily wave. It looks like I missed maybe a comment or two that didn't get ported over for some reason. Oh, we got a greetings, fellow nerds, nerdettes, and toasters. Awesome, yeah, greetings. Uh, also, hi Tariq. It's always good to see you. Nice to have familiar faces. John C. Lilly, gotcha. All right, well, I'm gonna be looking at the YouTube to see if I can recover what this was replying to, and see if I'm missing any comments, because that would be troubling. I don't want to be ignoring anybody who's trying to interact. Anyway, thanks for joining me, and as always, hack on. Have an awesome rest of your Tuesday.